My family went on a luxury trips without me after I sent them $112,000 every month, so when I exposed their dark secret, the entire family collapsed. My parents were always struggling with money, so I sent them $112,000 every month for the last 3 years without fail. They'd always call me with some new problem: Kevin, the mortgage is killing us, or Kevin, the electricity is about to be shut off. I'd send the money, no hesitation, no questions asked. But it wasn't just them. 2 years ago, my sister Ashley and her husband Greg had to move back home because they were drowning in debt. My parents took them in, and guess who ended up footing the bill? It was me. I didn't complain, it was family. Still, it got exhausting. I didn't see them much because I lived in another city, but I was always there for them financially. So, when I finally got a break from work, I thought, why not take them all on a vacation somewhere nice, somewhere tropical, where we could spend time together? I called my mother and pitched the idea. She hesitated for a moment, said, "Oh, Kevin, no, you've done more than enough. We can't let you spend that kind of money on a trip. You work too hard." I tried to convince her, but she wouldn't have it. I figured they didn't want to feel like a burden, so I let it go. Maybe next time, I told myself. But apparently, the next time came sooner than I thought. A few days later, my friend Mike texted me a screenshot of an Instagram post. It was a picture of my parents, Ashley and Greg, standing on a perfect white sand beach. The caption read, "Family time in paradise," followed by palm tree and sparkle emojis and the hashtag Hawaii Dreams. Mike added, "Yo, didn't you say your family was strapped for cash? Looks like they're living it up," with a laughing emoji. At first, I was confused. I hadn't seen the post in my feed. When I checked Ashley's profile, it became clear why I was being restricted. She was blocking me from seeing her new posts and stories. I sat there for a minute, staring at my phone, trying to make sense of it all. They had gone on a luxury vacation to Hawaii after turning down my offer, and they had kept it from me, the people I'd been supporting financially all this time. I didn't even know how to process it. Not inviting me was bad enough, but blocking me from seeing their posts? That hurt. I checked my parents' profiles as well. My dad, who never posts, had a rare photo up of him drinking a cocktail on the beach with a big grin on his face. They had all conspired to keep me in the dark. I decided I wasn't going to blow up over text or phone. No, I had a better plan. I called their neighbor, Mrs. Whitman, one of those older ladies who likes to keep an eye on everyone in the neighborhood. "Hey, Mrs. Whitman," I said casually, "could you let me know when my folks get back from their trip?" "Oh, sure, Kevin," she replied. "I saw them unloading their luggage this morning." So they were already home. I booked the next flight out, and by evening I was at their door. No warning, no heads up, just me, ready to see how they were going to explain this. But just before I rang the doorbell, I noticed something strange. Their house, always a bit run down, now had new landscaping. Expensive-looking stonework lined the walkway. A brand-new SUV sat in the driveway next to my dad's old car. The porch light had been replaced with some fancy smart bulb setup. I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. Where the hell did all this money come from? I took a deep breath and knocked on the door. They had no idea I was coming. The door opened, and my dad was standing there with a shocked look on his face. "Kevin, what are you doing here?" he asked, his eyes darting around like he'd been caught in the act. I forced a smile. "Surprise. Thought I'd pay you a visit since it's been a while." I glanced past him to see suitcases stacked near the stairs. My mom, Ashley, and Greg appeared a moment later. The tension was immediate. Everyone was frozen like deer in headlights. "Kev, oh wow, you didn't tell us you were coming," my mom stammered, clearly trying to regain her composure. "Yeah, I wanted it to be a surprise." "Did you just get back from somewhere?" I asked as casually as I could. My sister and Greg exchanged glances. Ashley stepped forward, fake happy. "Oh yeah, just a little trip. Nothing big." "Nothing big, huh?" I nodded, biting the inside of my cheek to keep from saying something I'd regret. "Hawaii looked nice," I said, meeting her eyes. The room fell silent. Ashley's face went pale. My dad coughed nervously. "You saw… how did you… "A friend sent me your Instagram post," I said, still keeping my tone neutral. "Funny thing is, I didn't see it on my own feed. You guys blocked me from it." "Kevin, it's not what you think," Ashley blurted out. "We didn't block you. We just, thought you were busy and wouldn't care about vacation posts." "Didn't care?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Come on, Ashley, you've never blocked me before, and you didn't tell me you were going to Hawaii when I literally offered to take you on vacation last week. What's going on?" Greg jumped in. Look, man, it's not like that. We didn't want to stress you out. You've already done so much for us. Oh, really? So not inviting me and blocking me was supposed to relieve my stress? I snapped. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I'm out here sending you thousands of dollars every month while you sneak off to luxury resorts, and now you have a new SUV and landscaping. Where did all that money come from? My mother spoke up quietly. Kevin, we can explain. Things have been better financially lately. Better? You've been crying broke for years. What changed all of a sudden? They all hesitated. No one wanted to talk. Finally, Ashley sighed and blurted out, "We didn't want to tell you because we knew it would upset you. Greg's uncle died a few months ago and he left us some money. A lot of money." I blinked, trying to process this. Wait, you've been sitting on an inheritance all this time and you're still taking my money? It wasn't like that, my father interjected. We were still getting back on our feet. The money just came through recently. We needed to stabilize things. Stabilize? Are you kidding me? You bought a new car and took a vacation before you even told me the truth. Greg tried to smooth things over. We wanted to pay you back, man. We just didn't know how to bring it up. I shook my head, anger bubbling up inside me. You didn't know how to bring it up? You could have started with, "Hey, Kevin, we don't need your money anymore." That would have been a good start. My mom reached out as if to put a hand on my shoulder, but I stepped back. Kev, please, we didn't mean to hurt you. We thought you'd be happy for us. Happy? I repeated. You really thought I'd be happy to find out like this after all I've done for you? The room fell silent again. My parents looked genuinely embarrassed, but Ashley and Greg, they just looked uncomfortable, like they wanted the conversation to be over. I took a deep breath. All right, here's what's going to happen. I'm done sending you money. From now on, you're on your own. And if you think you can hide things like this from me again, don't bother calling. Kevin, don't do this, my father pleaded. We're a family. We made a mistake, but we can fix it. Yeah, well, I need some time to decide if I even want to. With that, I turned and walked out, slamming the door behind me. But as I walked back to my rental car, something didn't feel right. The way Greg had been acting, like he was hiding something more, and that new SUV, it didn't feel like it was just inheritance money. I had a feeling there was more to this story, and I wasn't going to stop until I found out the truth. I drove off, but my mind was racing. The whole scene at the house felt wrong. Yes, an inheritance might explain some of it, but Greg was fidgety and nervous the whole time. Ashley wasn't much better, and the way my dad kept talking about stabilizing things didn't add up. There had to be more going on. I decided to stay in town for a while. I checked into a nearby hotel and started digging. First, I called my buddy Mike, who had sent me the Instagram screenshot. Mike worked in finance, so I figured he might be able to give me some insight. Hey Mike, quick question. If someone inherited money a few months ago, could they realistically buy a new SUV, landscaping, and a luxury vacation while still claiming to be broke? Mike chuckled. Depends on how much they inherited, but estate taxes can be brutal if they didn't handle it right, and that's not even counting current expenses. If they're making moves like this, there might be more to it. Like what? I asked. Could be a loan, or maybe someone else is bankrolling them, he suggested. That got me thinking. What if it wasn't just the inheritance? What if Greg was involved in something else, something shady? I decided to check out Greg's social media. His posts weren't restricted like Ashley's, and I didn't have to scroll far to find something interesting. A few weeks ago, he posted a photo of himself in front of a sleek office building with the caption, "Big things happening. Stay tuned," followed by briefcase and $sign emojis. I zoomed in on the sign on the building. It belonged to a private equity firm I'd never heard of, Liongate Capital Partners. I started Googling the company, and after a few searches I found a string of bad press. Apparently, Liongate had been flagged for some questionable practices. Fraudulent loans, predatory investment schemes, the works. What the hell did you get yourself into, Greg? I muttered. I called Mrs. Whitman again. I knew she kept an eye on everything going on in the neighborhood. If something sketchy was going on, she'd know about it. Mrs. Whitman, sorry to bother you again. Have you noticed anything unusual around my parents' house lately? People coming and going? Anything like that? Oh, Kevin, you wouldn't believe it, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper as if she were telling me a secret. About a month ago, a man came by in a fancy suit. He looked very serious, like a lawyer or a banker. He argued with your brother-in-law right there on the porch. And just last week, another man showed up in a black Mercedes. I saw them shaking hands. That confirmed it. Greg was involved in something more than just an inheritance. I thanked Mrs. Whitman and hung up the phone. My gut told me I had to confront Greg alone. Later that evening, I waited near their house. Around 8 p.m., Greg came out and got into the new SUV. I followed him at a distance. He drove across town to a bar on the edge of town. He didn't meet Ashley or anyone from the family. He was meeting a man in a suit, the same type of man Mrs. Whitman had described. They sat in a corner booth and talked quietly. I watched from a distance, staying out of sight. At one point, the man handed Greg a folder. Greg flipped through it, nodded, and then shook the man's hand. He looked relieved, almost as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. When they parted, I followed Greg back to the parking lot. Before he could get into his car, I stepped out of the shadows. "Hey, Greg." He jumped, eyes wide. "Kevin, what the hell are you doing here?" "We need to talk," I said, crossing my arms, "and this time, I want the truth. All of it." Greg froze for a second, looking like he'd just seen a ghost. "What are you doing here, man?" he asked, looking around nervously. "I followed you," I said flatly. "You've got 5 seconds to start talking, or I'm going to make a scene right here in the parking lot." He sighed and rubbed his face. Fine, just get in the car. I'll explain." We both got into his SUV, and Greg sat there in silence for a moment, gripping the steering wheel as if debating whether to drive away. I didn't let him. "So, who's the guy in the suit?" I asked. He hesitated. "His name is Ryan. He's, some kind of consultant." "A consultant?" "Come on, Greg, cut the crap. I know about Liongate Capital. I know they've been investigated for shady dealings, and I know you've been meeting with people who have no business hanging around my parents' house." Greg's face turned pale. He stared straight ahead for a moment, then finally spoke. "All right, here's the truth. The inheritance wasn't enough to cover everything. Ashley and I were still drowning in debt, so I took a deal." "What kind of deal?" He swallowed hard. "Liongate offered me an investment opportunity. They said if I put up some of the inheritance, they'd double it within a few months. I thought it was a sure thing, but the investment tanked." "You mean you were scammed?" "Basically, yes. And now I owe them more money than I have. Ryan helped me by giving me high-interest loans to keep up appearances. The new car, the landscaping. That wasn't from the inheritance. It was all to keep up the illusion that we were doing well. They told me that if I didn't look successful, people would lose confidence, and I'd never get the money back." I was stunned. "So, you faked this whole turnaround while taking money from me to cover your failures?" Greg shook his head quickly. No, we stopped taking your money as soon as the inheritance came through. We just didn't know how to tell you without looking ungrateful." "Unfreaking believable," I muttered. "And you blocked me from the Hawaii trip because you didn't want me to ask questions, right?" "Exactly." I ran a hand through my hair, trying to take it all in. "So, what now? How much do you owe them?" Greg hesitated again. "Over $500,000. I let out a low whistle. "You're telling me you managed to run up $500,000 in debt to a bunch of loan sharks masquerading as investors?" "They're not exactly loan sharks," Greg said weakly. "Yeah, sure, and I'm not exactly angry right now." Greg sighed. "Look, I screwed up big time, but I'm trying to fix it. I just need a little more time." "Time for what? To dig yourself into a deeper hole?" Before Greg could answer, his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and visibly tensed. "It's Ryan," he muttered. He silenced the call, but the phone buzzed again almost immediately. "Answer it," I said. Greg shook his head. "No, he's probably checking on the deal. I'll deal with it later. Answer it, Greg, or I will." Reluctantly, Greg took the call. "Hey, yeah, I know. I'm working on it," he said in a low voice. I couldn't hear the other end of the conversation, but Greg's expression changed from nervous to downright scared. "Wait, what?" No, I can get it by then. I just need more." He stopped mid-sentence, listening. When he hung up, he looked at me with wide eyes. "They want full payment by next week. If I don't pay, they'll go after Ashley." My jaw dropped. "Ashley? What do you mean they're going after her?" Greg slumped in his seat. "They said if I don't pay, they're going to collect from her one way or another. These guys aren't just investors, Kevin. They have connections, dangerous ones." I didn't say anything for a moment. This had gone from family drama to something much more serious. "All right," I finally said, "here's what we're going to do. You're not going to do this on your own anymore. We're going to figure out a way to deal with these guys, but first, you're going to come clean with Ashley and my parents. No more secrets." Greg nodded reluctantly. "Okay, but do you really think we can fix this?" I stared at him. We don't have a choice. This was no longer just about money. We were in deep now, and I wasn't going to let these people hurt my family. Not on my watch. The next day, we gathered the whole family in the living room. I could see the tension on everyone's faces. Ashley looked confused. My parents looked worried, and Greg, well, he looked like he was about to pass out. "All right," I began. "We need to have a serious conversation. There's something you don't know." Greg swallowed hard and took over. I made a mistake, a big one. I invested part of my inheritance with a company called Liongate Capital. They promised to double the money, but I got scammed. Now I owe them over $500,000. Ashley gasped. "What? Greg? Are you serious? Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to scare you," he said. "I thought I could fix it before things got out of hand." My dad frowned. "500,000? How the hell did you let it get that bad?" Greg hesitated, then said, "I took out loans to cover the losses and make it look like we were doing okay. But now these guys want their money back. If I don't pay them by next week, they've threatened to go after Ashley." My mom put her hand over her mouth. "Oh my God, what are we going to do?" I leaned forward. "We're not going to panic. I've looked into Liongate, and they have a reputation for shady deals, but that also means they're afraid of exposure. If we threaten to report them, they might back off." Ashley looked terrified. "And if they don't?" "We'll have a backup plan," I said. "I've already contacted one of my lawyer friends, and he's drafting a formal complaint to the authorities. If Liongate makes a move, we'll hit them with everything we've got. Press coverage, legal action, the works." Greg nodded. "Okay, let's do it." The next few days were tense. We sent a letter to Liongate, warning them that we had evidence of their fraudulent activities. Sure enough, Ryan called Greg in a huff, but he eventually backed down when he realized we weren't bluffing. The debt was canceled. But that wasn't the only surprise. About a week later, I got a call from my dad. "Hey, Kevin, we just got some mail from the lawyer handling your uncle's estate. It looks like there's more money coming. A second inheritance payment." "What?" I asked, confused. "Apparently, your uncle had offshore investments that took some time to liquidate. We're talking 7 figures. I blinked. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. It's more than enough to pay you back, cover Greg's mistakes, and then some." I took a long breath. I didn't even know how to feel at this point, relieved, angry, or just plain exhausted. When I hung up, I sat and thought about everything that had happened. In the end, the family would be okay, but things weren't going to be the same. A few days later, my parents and Greg handed me a check for $150,000 to pay back a good chunk of what I'd sent them over the years. "We know it doesn't make up for everything," my mom said, "but it's a start." I nodded. "Thank you. But from now on, things will be different. No more secrets, no more lies. We deal with things as a family." Ashley hugged me, tears in her eyes. "We'll be better. I promise." And they did. Over the next few months, things slowly began to change. Greg got a real job, Ashley started her own side business, and my parents finally managed their finances without my help. The biggest surprise through it all? I felt closer to them than I had in years. Sometimes hitting rock bottom is what it takes to rebuild trust. It wasn't the ending I expected, but maybe it was the one we needed.